All right, all right. It is another Thursday night, and this is Real Monsters. I'm your host, SK Barrett, with Wes Hobrick.
Hello, hello, hello.
Hello. Holy crap, do
There
we
we
have a
go.
show tonight?
We do. And it is the second in our series looking at deadly duos.
Yeah. Uh, Again, emphasizing the rarity among serial killers of pairing up with someone else in at all, much less two males. Um,
Yep.
uh, Very rare. I don't think we have any cases of two women teaming up, do we? I
Yeah, I honestly can't think of one if it
Yeah.
exists.
So sometimes men and women will team up, and sometimes two men will team up, and both of those are extremely rare. But these two son of a bitches, holy shit!
Oh, absolutely. Did we want to get into this week before we
Yes,
segue
we do.
into.
Yeah,
Yeah,
we better get into some history this week in crime history.
this week? Dun dun dun. Yep, we will definitely be getting back to the other two. I apologize to the listeners. I lost one page of my notes on this. So we will be starting not with June 6th, but with June the 9th.
Okay.
Yep. Um, and I'm getting to that still. Oh, yeah, there we go. June 9th in the year 68 CE. Nero, the
Whoa,
Roman Emperor,
what does CE stand for?
Common Era, as opposed to AD, Anno Domini, after death.
Okay. So it used to
Um,
be BC, now it's CE.
well, that's what a lot of historians will do to avoid the religious connotations of
Yeah.
the others. Yeah.
Okay.
Um, but at any rate, Nero committed suicide by slitting his throat to avoid death by flogging.
Ah, that'd be a rough way to go.
It was mandated by the Senate that he would have to undergo that. So he found a loophole and got himself out of it.
Death
Um,
by one cut instead of death by 1,000 cuts.
yeah. June 9th, 1930, Chicago Tribune reporter Jake Lingle is killed at rush hour in Union Station over a $100,000 debt he owed to Al Capone.
A reporter owed $100,000?
To Capone, yep.
Well, that's pretty dumb.
Yeah, I would say so. Most definitely. I don't. It didn't say in the sources I was looking at how he ran it up, but if I had to guess, it's probably gambling.
Yeah,
Probably.
you can't drink that much.
No. Nope. Uh, June 9th, 2013, Edward Snowden reveals his identity as the leaker of the NSA documents.
Ah, Snowden.
Yep. Um, June 10th, 1692. The first in the Salem witch trial executions. Bridget Bishop is hung.
Ooh, starting a very, very bad precedent.
Yeah, yeah, yep. 1794. France's revolutionary regime begins the trials, which would ultimately lead to the Reign of Terror. Definitely a monstrous thing.
Absolutely. And
Ju-
yeah, that revolution didn't quite go as everybody thought it would.
nope, it definitely didn't. Um, June 10th, 1933, John Dillinger robs his first bank in New Carlisle, Ohio. His take $10,600.
That was a hell of a lot of money.
Yeah, 1933.
That was a hell of a
Definitely.
lot of money. And why did he rob banks?
Oh man, I'm trying to remember that quote now.
Because
I
that's where the
forget.
money is.
Yes, that's it. Thank you. Hmm. On that same day in 1933, Bonnie and Clyde flipped their car into a ravine, with Bonnie suffering some pretty nasty third-degree burns from that.
But they survived that.
This
Um,
flipping, this
yeah,
flipping, they survived.
yeah.
Yeah, this wasn't the end in Louisiana, which came a little bit later. Let's see. June 10th, 1977, James Earl Ray escapes prison. That is James Earl Ray, the guy who shot and killed Martin Luther King
Yeah,
Jr.
yeah.
Um, Oddly enough, he has some connections to this area over on the Missouri side. Actually, still has family living over there. So,
Uh, and
yeah,
I presume that he was recaptured and hauled back to the Huskow.
that actually comes, I think, 2 days later because I wrote it down too. It wasn't that long that he was out when that happened.
It rarely is, actually.
Yeah, although we do have another notable escape that I'll get to here in a second too. Let's see. Yeah, I'll actually get to it right now. It's the next entry. June 11th, 1962. John and Clarence Anglin and Frank Morris escape from Alcatraz.
Oh, yay! I hope that was going to come up.
Yep,
And were
yep.
never seen again.
Never. Not sure if they lived or were sucked up by the bay. But
Yeah. Th-
man,
there's a lot of theories on both sides of that.
hmm, really?
Yeah, about whether they lived or died. And
Hmm,
and yeah.
wow. I have to do some more research on that. It's an excellent movie, of course, with Eastwood.
Yeah.
But let's
And
see.
Mythbusters recreated that escape.
Oh, uh-huh.
They did, and they made it.
Wow. I have to check
So
that episode out too.
proving that it was feasible.
That's excellent, man. And that's one of those where you hear it and you just hope at some level that they made it alive and walked into the sunset.
Yeah.
But um, June 11th, 1966, French and German media mistakenly report the death of Roger Daltrey.
Oh.
I am not sure what caused that. So,
Probably drugs.
yeah, drugs on the media's part.
Yes.
Man. June 11th, 1974, Bundy victim Georgianne Hawkins disappears.
Yeah, that was a crazy summer in this area, and that
Dang.
was just the start of it.
Yeah,
Yeah,
man.
it was wild.
It's something that we need to. I think we should redo that topic
We
because
do.
that's one of those shows that disappeared with the
Yep.
recordings.
Yep.
Unfortunately.
It was lost to a failing streaming site, and we need to redo that. Absolutely.
We do. I mean, we ought to redo some of those others too. I'd have to take a look.
Yeah, we lost three or four.
Hmm.
Yep.
Yeah, I just don't remember which. Uh, but let's see. June 11th, 1979, Chuck Berry pleads guilty to tax evasion.
Hmm. Yeah.
Mm.
Paving the way for future tax dodging musicians.
Yeah, and actors too.
Yeah.
Wesley Snipes, man. June 11th, 1981, Hannibal Isisagawa kills a Dutch student. That's one that we ought to consider doing a show on. Isisagawa.
Yeah. Put them on the list.
You know, I'm trying to think if we've done anybody that was a cannibal. Curtin was a cannibal with some of
Um,
it.
uh, I think I think we've done some uh, where it's been a minor point, but not nobody
Yeah,
where that was a real thing for them.
yeah, I think so too. Um, let's see. 1984, SCOTUS rules that evidence illegally obtained can still be used at trial if the government can prove they would have legally obtained it anyway. Weird
Um,
precedent.
that's kind of odd, right?
Yeah,
How do you prove that?
yeah. I mean, that is odd, but still. Man, I hope that's one that might get challenged. But 6 years later to the day, SCOTUS rules flag burning constitutional.
Mm,
Let's see.
that was a rather inflammatory decision.
Rim shot. Hmm. June 11th, 1994, a drunk police officer kills 7 with his service revolver in Sweden.
What year?
1994.
Oh man.
Let's see. 2 years ago, June 11th, 2017, Congo jailbreak frees 900 inmates.
See, this is the thing. This is the thing that I don't think prisoners understand. They if they
Hmm.
band together, they can get out. They just, you know, s-
Mm-hmm.
they're not all going to get out, but most of them would get out if they just banded together and all worked, in conjunction with each other,
Oh,
because they
absolutely.
can absolutely overwhelm the guards
Mm-hmm.
if they're willing to do it.
Oh, I have no doubt of that. I'm sure there's other recorded instances of them doing it that way too.
Yeah, not
Uh,
many though, but
yeah. Man,
okay.
what the heck? I'm getting feedback.
Uh-oh.
Hold on a second. I just gotta mute the YouTube.
Yeah.
Let's see. June 12th, 1931, Capone indicted on 5,000 counts of violating the Volstead Act and perjury.
5,000 counts. Jesus.
Yep.
Well,
Which, for those who don't know, the Volstead Act was what was the impetus for prohibition. It was the actual law saying booze was illegal. So let's
well,
see,
4,000 counts weren't enough.
5,000.
They had to go for five.
Oh yeah.
Way to go,
Well, but
prosecutors.
oddly enough, they couldn't get him. Obviously, we all know how that turned out, where they had to
Right.
charge him with tax evasion to get him in prison. It's a messed up system.
Yep.
Uh, June 12th, 1964, Nelson Mandela gets life in prison.
Mm.
June 12th, 1978, David Berkowitz, the son of Sam, gets 25 to life. That's the guy who, by the way, for people who don't know,
Mm.
talked to his dog and thought his dog told him to kill people.
Yeah. I mean, if
He,
you're gonna take instructions from anybody on murder, well, your dog's as good as anybody.
oh, yeah. And June 12th, 2016, the Orlando massacre happened, where the ISIS gunman took an automatic weapon into the gay club in Orlando.
Oh, right.
Right. Oh, here was a good one. June 13th, 1920, the U.S. Postal Service bans sending children through the mail.
They had to make
I
a
guess
law.
apparently this happened. Yeah, yeah, it was that big of a problem.
Oh man.
Man.
Not that I never thought of doing that myself.
mm, man. Yeah, that is so messed up. But June 13th, 1966, SCOTUS's Miranda decision was handed
Ooh.
down. Very important one.
Yep.
Oh, and yeah, it was June 13th, 1977, where James Earl Ray was recaptured.
There it is.
June 13th, 81, a teenager fires 6 blanks at Queen Elizabeth.
And what happened after that?
Was arrested.
Yeah.
I'm not sure what the penalty was after trial though. But
Yeah. Just
June
getting the
13th, 2000, Italy pardons John Paul II's gunman when he got shot in 1981. So
hmm.
19 years later. Let's see. June 13th, 2006, Congress offers a formal apology for never enacting a law against lynching.
Well, isn't that wouldn't that just fall under murder?
One would think.
I,
I guess that
it'd be,
depends on if you buy the logic of hate crimes, though.
but I mean, killing people is already kind of illegal. So do we need another law for that?
Yeah, well, I don't think so.
I mean, even group killing. I mean, killing in a group. That's
Oh,
still
yeah.
still counts as illegal. Pretty sure.
But that is what I have for the history section. I've got a few here for the headlines of this past week of interesting things that happened in crime,
Okay.
compiled with the help of a very special lady friend.
Oh.
Thank you so much for that. You know who you are. Um, just going down the list here, these were some of the headlines. Florida woman squeezes her boyfriend's testicles to the point that they start bleeding. File that under Florida woman.
Holy crap.
Florida man says cocaine on his nose is not his. Fourth Amendment defense. It's
Hey,
not mine.
hey Jesse, we should do a a thing in the group to come up with excuses where the cocaine came from.
uh, let's see. 3 more arrested in the planned killing of a learning disabled 19-year-old.
Jesus. How old
Um,
were these people? Were these teenagers?
yes,
Yeah.
most of them were. Um, and I hope he's okay, but David Ortiz shot in the Dominican Republic.
During a bank robbery?
Was it a bank robbery or was it something more akin to a mugging?
I
But
so early headline said something about a bank robbery.
uh-huh. Oh, maybe that was it. Wow. I mean, either way, it went clear through and through in his back. Hope he's
Oh,
okay and getting
jeez.
better. Well, I would think that's what you want when you get shot. is through and
Yeah,
through not getting the bullet trapped in there. But
definitely that. But I mean, that's gonna even, yeah, it's gonna be a rough recovery no matter what.
oh yeah. Um, let's see. Also, this past week, Uber driver caught by the father of a 12-year-old as he is raping the 12-year-old.
Yeah, that's wow. Well,
Yeah,
that must have been like, what the fuck, in the driveway or some shit,
it had to have been.
right?
Man, have a little fucking impulse control.
Well,
Jeez.
yeah, that's you. Uber, gets like two of those before their entire business collapses. No,
Yeah,
I mean that. I mean, one, you can kind of dismiss as, oh, well, you can't, you can't, you can't screen out everybody. Um,
yeah,
you get to two, and people start scratching their heads. If there's ever a third, they're done. Toast.
man. They have the money to help fight that sort of thing, but you might be right.
You know, you think they can't, but back in the 90s, we saw a top five accounting firm vanish almost overnight over
Hmm,
confidence issues.
wow,
Literally,
man.
they were the top five in the country, and within a month, they did not exist. They were gone without a trace.
Jeez. Yeah, and the competition would definitely swallow them up with something like that.
Yep,
I mean, Lyft would love to step in,
absolutely.
but well, this one happened in my home state. A cancer patient up near Chicago got 4 years in prison for buying chocolate infused with THC.
Oh, for fuck's sakes.
Now, what is doubly bullshit about this? Illinois is legalizing recreational weed this January, this coming January, and they
Uh,
still decided to charge this guy. That's
for
just some,
for a goddamn edible. For
yeah,
buying an edible.
yeah. I mean, it's these fucking prosecutors who have absolutely no oversight and just like to get in there and do whatever
They,
the hell they want, whatever
they just,
pads their win column.
yeah, that's what I was gonna say. Padding their stats.
Man, it's profoundly fucked up. But same day, a Mexican fundamentalist church leader, as opposed to a Catholic Mexican leader, was charged with multiple accounts of child sex trafficking.
And
Two fifty.
how the
Oh,
hell
go ahead, Ed.
how the hell does the Catholic Church survive all this shit?
Well, that wasn't the Catholic. That's what I was trying to say
Well,
there.
yeah, yeah,
This is a fundamentalist church with
okay.
this one. But yeah, I mean, that's a good question how they do. I don't know if people are just becoming numb or what. But, being a Catholic myself, I've said repeatedly what I think people should do is just stop giving your money to the local church until they put in rules that say total transparency. If we get an allegation, we're turning it over to the cops. That's it.
Yeah.
Because they've shown they cannot be trusted with their
No.
internal system of this. And the only way you're
And
going to get
and
their
they
attention is money.
and they shouldn't be internally investigating. It's a fucking crime. Hand it over to the cops.
Oh, I
Every
agree.
every time. This internal investigation bullshit for anybody, any organization, uh,
Yeah,
is nonsense.
lazy bureaucracy. And I'll tell you, I think a lot of Catholics feel exactly like I do with that they just aren't stepping up to do what needs to be done. They might be, waiting for somebody to do it. Everybody knows it should be done, but they just haven't done it yet, which is
Yeah.
sad. But um, two 15-year-olds charged with the murder of an elderly man over, drumroll, 50 cents.
Jeez. What are they get?
Um,
They must have thought he had more. That's all I can think of.
Or they're just really dumb kids. I'm not sure. Uh, Detroit suspect is charged with 3 slayings of transgender people.
Did
3 separate. One man who be or 2 men who became women and 1 woman who became a man. Another interesting story. 2 Republican senators shot at home this past week. One in
what?
Oklahoma. One in was shot at his home or her home in Oklahoma, and another at his home in Arkansas. I haven't seen much elaborating on it yet. They know that hers was a murder, but they weren't saying if his was that or was an accident.
Hmm.
So I think this one's still a developing story. We'll definitely
It's certainly
watch it.
curious. Certainly curious.
Yeah, whether they're related or not, I don't know, but we'll update as we hear on that.
There's no
Uh,
such thing as coincidence.
nope. Um, Lesbian couple beaten on a London subway when they refused to kiss for a group of men.
It's just you just run out of words to for as a reaction to this bullshit that's going on in the world.
Oh, I've got much worse than that. 100 Iowa man gets 120 years old or 120-year sentence. God, I can't read my own writing. Um, over,
Over.
wait for it, incest with his infant daughter and broadcasting it live. But these incest stories get even worse. This
Yeah.
past week, a sheriff's deputy in Louisiana coerced a woman into incest with her infant son as he taped it.
Yeah.
Basically, in return for saying, I'll take care of a warrant you have in traffic, which is just profoundly fucked up. Profoundly.
So many ways. So many
Um,
ways.
have you
Well,
seen a Serbian film?
I mean, it's fucked up and it's corrupt as well.
Oh, yeah. Oh, no doubt about it. That's one of the charges they're getting him on because, to his credit, the sheriff in that parish where it occurred
Yeah.
was very much like, we're going to throw the book at this guy. This
Well,
will not happen.
well, good.
Um, but have you seen a Serbian film, SK?
I have not seen it. No.
It's a deeply depraved movie, one of the few I've ever seen that took a bit of my soul with it, about this guy who was a former porn star who gets tricked into making what's first called an art film. And basically, it's all um, severely violent, severely deviant sex on display.
Hmm.
And one part of the movie is what's called newborn porn. And that was that just reminded me of the sheriff's situation there. The director of that said as well that he intended it as satire of what the Serb
What?
government, well, parody, if you will, or allegory of what the Serb government would do to its citizens. That whole movie.
Yeah, no. I don't buy that bullshit.
I don't know if I do either, whether it's just torture porn or what have
Yeah.
you. But
I mean, you can come up with flowery words to justify anything you want to do.
oh yeah, most definitely. And, that actually wasn't the last instance of incest in the news either this week. We had a guy in New York who raped his infant daughter in a cemetery and then drowned her.
Why? 'Cause she was gonna be a witness? What the fuck?
I think it was drug insanity, but I'm not sure. I would have to take a closer look at that one. Um, see, just a couple others. Toddler found dead in a trailer park dryer in Georgia. Hmm.
Man.
And a manhunt for a suspect in New York, close to Niagara Falls, after a woman is found tied up in his basement.
Oh, really?
Yep, might be a lot more on that one.
I'm guessing there's going to be quite a bit more to that story. And just from, the kind of people that we've talked about on the show, I'm guessing she's not the first.
Yeah, definitely. It's just the one he happened to make a mistake on, most likely. So,
Alrighty. So we got some a couple of seriously depraved motherfuckers in
oh
this
yeah,
show.
seriously depraved and seriously delusional on top of it. Because
What?
this isn't just a study in crime we're going to be looking at. This is a study of what could be called a form of mass hysteria and media manipulation.
Yeah, these two guys touch on so many things. I don't know if we can fit this into one show. There is so much going on here with these two fuckheads,
Oh
and
yeah.
and
Oh yeah.
that it's it just doesn't end.
No, it doesn't. It's a huge, huge saga. And it's very, very different, I would say, from what we covered last week, even though they are another depraved duo.
Right. Yeah. These guys have, there's movies involved. There's television. I mean, the unintended consequence of John Walsh.
Oh, yeah.
There's, oh, there's, uh, police confusion. There's from, ah, where do we start? Where the hell do we start?
oh, yeah. You know, the way I guess it could start in my notes, I have it written down where they were in the panhandle doing a lot of their killing.
That would
Yeah,
be
maybe it would
Florida. That
be,
would be
yeah.
Florida.
Yeah, not Texas, Florida. But, maybe it would be I was just debating about that. These guys also had some very odd methods to what they would do.
So let's start with who are these guys and where did they come from and how did they meet?
Ottis Toole, born in Jacksonville, Florida on March 5th, 1947. His dad was an alcoholic and he was one of five children. Um, let's see, he had his first brush with the law with the breaking and entering charge at age 13. Went to various boys' homes, boys' schools, trying to sort of straighten him out. And
Hmm.
his mom at this point basically said, "I just can't take care of him." And of course, the dad's not in the picture. He left a long time ago and is probably drowning in a bottle in Key West, what have you.
Right?
But let's see, yeah, breaking and entering, age 13. After that, he largely sold himself on the streets to survive.
Okay.
And he came out during that time. He identifies as a homosexual. Um, he met Henry Lee Lucas at a soup kitchen in Jacksonville, and both of them they went to the mother's house and were living there. And soon enough, she passed away. And this was one thing that made me feel almost sorry for Ottis Toole. He would often be sleeping on his mother's grave, literally, in the
Wow.
cemetery.
Wow.
I mean, if that isn't just a sad picture, something that you could picture a guy like Eddie Gein doing too.
Hmm.
But that's another thing that Toole did a lot in the cemetery. He was a grave robber.
Oh, really?
Yep. He
Eh,
didn't. He wasn't into necrophilia, as far as I could tell. But what he would do is steal things
right.
out of the graves when he would pillage them. And that very much included bones too.
And what did you do
So
with the bones? Could you sell those?
I wonder if it. wasn't just a sort of weird fascination.
Mm,
You sometimes see this with serial killers. I mean, you arguably could have seen it with LaLaurie and how she killed,
yeah.
but a lot of others also show a morbid fascination with anatomy and physiology and sort of learning how all that works by cutting people open,
Mm,
and looking on the inside. Jeffrey Dahmer, his thought process went like that. And
okay.
that's one big reason he killed like he killed. And it started when, he was a kid. It's like, I want to know how this stuff works by opening them up. So he would do it on animals
Right.
until, he stopped and progressed to humans. So just a speculation there, but could be.
Yeah.
But he and Lucas were peas in a pod, basically. Lucas killed his mom at 23. And he was, I think it's important to note, the more dominant personality in this relationship was Henry Lee Lucas.
Okay.
He was the smarter one, and he was just the more outgoing one. Um,
Because
Toole's IQ was actually 75.
yeah,
So,
that's substantially below average.
yeah, it definitely is. Although, when you
But
look
at
at
the, at
his
the same
crime,
time, he's quite cunning.
yeah, that's what I was just thinking.
Yeah.
And you look at these guys' crimes, and their criminal versatility is just huge, which is, you do see that quite often with serial killers, but I think Toole and Lucas were on a whole other planet with that, with how good they were um, at breaking and entering. Toole was also an arsonist, as we know is common,
Yeah.
but that's one thing that profilers, psychologists, and the FBI looks at when they're studying a killer or when they are trying to profile one to find them is criminal versatility. How
Mm,
experienced are they in other forms of crime? And how
right.
efficient are they at it?
And
Because that's
how
indicative of
creative are they?
intelligence. Yeah, exactly. And, Lucas and Toole, they definitely had that. And then you get into that whole idea of their MO, which we were talking about a bit before we went on here.
Hmm.
I mean, they would shoot people, they would stab, they would strangle, they would even use a car and just run them down.
Yeah. Yeah. Their game had nothing to do with the method of killing.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't about that.
Yeah, very much opportunistic, I think you
Yeah.
could argue. Just whatever was around.
Right.
And, and it was for that reason that as Lucas and Toole went from their home base in Jacksonville to California out west and Maryland in the north, that as they're, out there robbing, roaming, and pillaging the countryside, the cops never put two and two together that there's a larger pattern here. So,
Because they changed up their MOs, because they changed up their locations, and they crossed
yep.
jurisdictional lines.
Hmm.
Uh, and it, they started they started in the 70s, didn't they?
They did.
Fucking
They,
70s, man.
they absolutely did. Yep. Another thing they didn't have back then was a system like VICAP,
No.
which is the violent offender. Man, what's it stand for? I can't remember what it exactly stands for, but it's a huge computer system that logs all these details in a crime
Hmm.
from all over the country from any department that's plugged into it. So it's easier for law enforcement to see a pattern.
Right. Well, to be fair, in the 70s and early 80s, computers were very large and very expensive.
Yep. Yep.
And
And they did
so
not have that luxury.
most places did not. I mean, the Bureau did, maybe a few of the larger cities, maybe, but mostly law enforcement did not have computers of any
Yeah, and
kind.
it would actually be 2 years until um, VICAP was even started. Because Lucas was caught in 1983 in Texas
Okay.
for 9 murders. They were holding him. And then you had Toole at the time, who was sitting in a Florida jail for arson. So, yeah, that is the Violent Criminal Apprehension Program, VICAP.
All right. So, what the hell did? So, let's get into some details.
Mm-hmm. Let's see. Well, in the Florida Panhandle, their first victim there, they rushed her home. You got in, they were laying in wait until she got in with groceries in her hands, and that's when they got her. Um, and let's see, it was only about 2 or 3 days later, in a couple towns over, still in the Florida Panhandle, you had one woman who was stabbed and another who was shot. Um, and one interesting thing here that I don't think we've ever seen with another killer, Toole and Lucas actually brought Toole's niece and nephew with them when they killed that first woman in the Panhandle.
How do you mean with them? I mean,
They they literally, Toole and Lucas let them into the house to look around, just
yeah.
as long as they were out before she got in. And the reason they know that, they actually talked to him, and the kid confirmed, the girl, that she left a glove there,
Oh,
and they found it. Um, but it turns out that they would also take these kids with them when they would go to California and Maryland on the road with them.
wow.
Um, I guess Ottis had this sort of weird debt of honor, I guess you could say, to look after particularly her well-being, and that was a big part of it. But Toole also said that it would be easier for them to move around neighborhoods if they had kids with them in
Yeah.
tow.
Clever.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah, for an
so
IQ
so
75 guy.
Gary Ridgway took a nephew fishing or on a camping trip to Oregon
Hmm.
with a dead body in the back of their pickup, and he drove all the way to Oregon to dispose of this body for some reason, and
Wow.
took a nephew along for the ride.
Hmm. Man, I wonder what the symbolism was for that. Why you went that far.
Yeah, it was the only one I believe that he traveled out of state for.
Hmm. Wow. That's another important thing to note for people. So usually serial killers like to stay in their home base and
Right,
not roam too far.
right.
But you had Lucas and Toole, who killed over this geographic span of 26 states.
Wow.
Yeah.
Half the country.
Yep. Yep. Man.
That's extraordinarily rare.
I mean, yeah. For instance, one of them, Toole stabbed a woman in Oklahoma 42 times. They kidnapped a little girl by gunpoint in Illinois. And we get into their most famous murder, bar none,
Oh yeah. And who was that?
Adam Walsh, the son of John Walsh, the America's most wanted guy, and arguably, I would say, the nuclear fuel that burns in a man like John Walsh to do what he does was his boy Adam.
Well, no doubt about that. And
Yeah.
as I was thinking about it, it occurred to me that the unintended consequence of the murder of Adam Walsh was to put a lot of other criminals behind bars.
Oh yeah.
Because
No,
because
absolutely.
America's Most Wanted, they caught a lot of guys.
Oh yeah. Well, and not just that. Look at the entire industry of that they spawned. All these other shows that do it too.
Yeah.
I mean, they John Walsh started that, as she said, but it was Adam was with his mother in a mall in a Sears in Hollywood, Florida. She left him alone at a video game display for just a minute while she was looking at a lamp that was on sale. And when she came back, he was gone. It's the middle of the day, the mall is packed with people,
Mm,
and he just vanished. Oh, I think I forgot to mention the date on that. It was July, so you're going to probably have more traffic in there than
right.
other times of the year. July 27th, 1981.
Mm, I remember this. Yeah. This was
And,
this was big news across the country.
oh, yeah. Yeah, and you had volunteers from all over
Hmm.
looking, helping to search for Adam and his parents doing everything they can too. And I think that's always, obviously a sympathetic thing for people when they see, just how people like John Walsh have had their hearts torn out
Yeah.
when this sort of thing happens. But they found Adam's head about 125 miles away up the highway, where Toole had taken a machete, beheaded him while he pulled over, beheaded them, and then he just threw the head out the window into a canal at a mile marker.
What?
Yep.
Like
I don't know.
just driving down the road and bloop.
Yeah, he literally just decides to pull over and do that, and then he just throws his head out.
Oh, these guys, man.
Yeah. Just wow.
Took him 120 miles away.
Mm-hmm. And man, and they never found Adam Walsh's body either. Just his head.
Wow. Well, that's at, at least they found something because a lot of parents don't.
Yeah.
A
Some
lot,
closure.
yeah, and it's pretty definitive. Um,
Mm-hmm.
they're not going to be going around. Oh, he could still be alive.
Oh yeah. Yeah, they're not gonna be doing that, but um an interesting thing there as well was what Toole said was his motivation, particularly for the Walsh crime.
Yeah.
He was again imprisoned for arson at this time, and this was when he confessed to doing the deed when he was
Oh,
in prison.
okay.
He's he said that a satanic cult group called the Hands of Death were paying him and Henry Lee Lucas to dismember, kill, and eat children.
Oh,
Yeah,
oh my God, that's so ridiculous.
yeah.
But
This is one
people,
thing that's like, dude, you're delusional.
uh, yeah, because why would they pay you to do that?
Yeah, yeah.
Where does it benefit them to pay you to do this?
Oh, yeah. And that's
Um,
part of Ottis Toole as a bullshit artist with,
but
Lucas too.
did people buy it?
I would imagine some did. And you have to remember at this time, there wasn't a whole lot of understanding about what false confessions were either and why people would make them.
Mm,
Um, which, we have a lot of scholarship since then on that question. Um, but,
yeah.
I'm not totally sure how many people completely bought that story or not.
Well, the whole there was a lot of madness around satanic cults in the 80s.
The
I mean,
Satanic Panic, yep.
there was a lot of fucking madness about it, and we had people who were accused of the most heinous things based off
Yep.
of false memories
Oh, yeah.
and just witch hunts, literally.
Oh yeah, yeah, like the McMartin preschool case
Yep.
comes to mind. I still say we should consider doing a show on that too.
Yeah. Well, we had one up here in Washington, Eastern Washington.
Oh
Another
wow.
another preschool, very much along those lines. That um, was the same story as McMartin.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. Yeah,
And about the
Kelly
same
does.
time.
Wow. Yeah, Kelly does make a good point that blaming the occult would create a lot of press.
It
Yeah, I
certainly
think we
did.
covered
Yeah.
that. Maybe cause issues with jury selection. Yeah, it could, considering the national media. But honestly, I don't think Toole had that level of forethought to blame it like that.
No, no, no. He probably it's probably just something he picked up in jail. Hearing the chatter amongst the other prisoners, and just
Hmm.
decided to run with it.
Yeah, it very well could be, but and you have that interesting dynamic of after Toole confessed to the Adam Walsh case and others, including 8 unsolved murders in Jacksonville. Henry Lee Lucas, several states away in a jail cell in Texas, is starting to confess to the same things. And you had literally press and police beating a path to both these men's doors, trying to close their cases.
Yeah. And so these guys get credited with, I mean, their numbers are huge any way you slice it.
Yeah,
The number of deaths attributed to them. I mean, there's, I mean, they've been convicted of a lot. They confessed, they're suspected of even more, and they confess to way more than that. I mean, yeah, they have claimed way more than that.
yeah, the exact numbers. Lucas said that he killed 600 people, and Toole said that he killed 125. But that again is, their attribution with that. And you have the fact that both these men are extreme narcissists. And, they have literally this crowd coming to them to get every little detail, and it made them feel good.
Right.
It validated these two drifters and ne'er do wells who had never felt validation in their life. And it also led to an interesting delusion of theirs about prison, where they thought that in prison they could live happily ever after as lovers. Not even kidding.
they, which is an odd fantasy to hold, considering they both serve time.
Yeah, it really is. That
Uh,
was sort of their goal with a lot of it.
but
So much of this was nihilistic too. I mean, they killed for unknown or no reason a lot of the time. But looking at those numbers that were inflated, the actual number, a lot of people agree was, I thought I had it written down on this page. I think it was 225 was the
Jesus,
more agreed upon number.
that puts them way up the list,
Oh yeah,
just
no
in
doubt
just
about it.
just in numbers.
Oh, 210 victims is the final count.
Does anybody in this country have more?
Not that I know of. I would think to get more out of something with that, you would almost have to go do it on an industrial scale, a la what the Nazis did.
Yeah, or be a long haul trucker.
Yeah, this is true.
I mean, there uh, there's there's some suspicions that that is actually a thing.
Oh, I have no doubt about it.
Yeah.
It just, Yeah, definitely. I mean, their count is outrageously high, any way you slice it.
And these guys did in their killing and quite frankly torturing people um,
Hmm.
was so horrific. We can't even really talk about it. It's just bad. It's
Oh,
beyond
yeah.
imagining.
Well, and it has such a huge variety. I mean, like we said, they would, stab, beat, sexually assault, run people over with cars, whatever was convenient for them.
Male, female,
Yeah.
children, race didn't matter to them.
Yep.
And
Not at all.
how much of it was opportunity? Would people in the just happened to cross their paths?
I think a lot of it was, because that would be one of the main reasons they would kill when they were out on the road, too. If they needed money, or if they needed a car, or if they needed food. So once their cars would burn out while they were driving, they would just leave them. And
Hmm.
they would go steal another, or they would literally do what the caricature of a hobo often does, and that's
Right,
ride the
right.
rails. So,
Hmm.
uh, John Walsh, I think he put it best when he was talking about Toole in all these contexts and just the level of depravity that he is. He called him a penny ante little chicken shit. Yeah, that's about right.
Yeah, yeah,
Man.
but a mean one.
Yeah. Oh, definitely. And it just horribly sadistic too. One of his other favorite things to do after all was said and done and he was in prison was to write letters to Disney World and to John Walsh.
Why Disney World?
One of his fantasies was taking these kids there.
Oh, the two family members.
Well, the ones he abducted too.
Oh, really?
Yep.
They didn't really survive long enough to make it to Disney World.
No, they really didn't. And, it got quite a bit worse too because Toole was in jail before Lucas was that year. And
So had they split up, gone different directions? How did one get arrested and not the other? Were they not were they not physically together at the time?
well, they were together. And Toole, like I said, was arrested in Jacksonville for 2 arsons. He was
Oh,
serving, I think it was 10 years on that, maybe 20. I'm looking in my notes here. And Lucas, takes the kids with him. He heads towards Texas. And I don't know what totally soured these guys on each other or what, but Lucas, to spite Toole, kills that niece.
oh, well, that would do it. So he's been protecting her all this time,
Mm-hmm.
being the guardian, and then he kills her.
Yeah.
That
Yep.
would
And like it got worse when they were behind bars and they were both confessing to this and that and this and that. Um, Lucas, to further screw Toole, claimed that those arsons in Jacksonville were premeditated murder, which actually was what got Ottis Toole sent to death row in Florida.
oh,
Yeah. So I don't know what was up his ass about all that, but
well, they had a tiff.
yeah. Yep. And like I said, you had the cops and the media just beating a path to their door, but you did have one enterprising journalist in Dallas who started to bust their bullshit in the
Oh, right?
confessions.
Yeah.
Yeah, and take it apart. And they did. And despite being the total grandstanding shitheels, they did manage to help closed a lot of cold cases for real with those confessions.
Okay.
So,
Now, I think you mentioned privately that Henry Lee Lucas was the subject of a Hollywood movie,
um, he was
or
the
the inspiration. I'm saying, sorry,
he was the inspiration for Henry Portrait of a Serial Killer, if I'm not mistaken.
which was I remember very clearly when this came out. It was rated X,
Yep.
uh, and what astonished me is that even as a young man, um, I couldn't go see that, but I read an article about it that said that it was astonishing for the fact that um, it was rated X for violence and there was none on the screen.
Nope. If I remember correctly, nope. There wasn't
Yeah,
any.
it was all off screen,
I'm
and
gonna have
yet
to watch it again, I think.
and yet it was it earned an X rating.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and it was because it was that disturbing of a film.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, man, that's been years since I've watched that too.
Yeah. It's in today's world, it is not at all an X-rated movie.
No.
Yeah.
In fact, I'm gonna pull the link up to that and drop it in the chat for people. Yeah, Henry Portrait of a Serial Killer was Lucas. But the other thing that's really astounding to me is that he didn't get the death penalty. Lucas didn't.
Really.
And remember, he's incarcerated in Texas.
It's
Texas.
really astonishing, isn't it?
Yeah. And no death penalty for him, but Ottis Toole got it.
And was he executed?
1996.
Well, I guess Florida, I don't know, man. Oh,
Yep.
this says that Toole died of liver failure.
Oh. Yeah, you're right. He had the death penalty, but then they commuted it. Okay.
Yeah.
So Lucas almost got him on that.
Wow.
Yep, those guys are a trip. And to answer the questions that Mr. Deadman posed at the beginning,
Yeah.
which was more methodical? I think that was hands down Lake and Ing were more methodical.
Yes.
I mean, they did not hunt the way Toole and Lucas did at all. And what was the other one? More violent? I think it was more violent.
Who was more violent?
If you look at pure body count, that's got to go to
Yeah,
Toole and Lucas.
absolutely.
But
Um, uh, Lake and Ing, though they were they had the hubris though, because they videotaped their shit.
oh, absolutely. Yeah, they definitely had the hubris there. They had the psychological torture down.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Alrighty. What else do we need to know about these guys?
I honestly I think that's most of it.
Okay.
That's all I got. Boy,
Alrighty.
If only I could find my other page. Stupid notes. Yeah, I know. I need a better filing system.
Yellow pad works fine.
Yeah,
All right. Well, another one in the books.
definitely.
Ottis Toole, Henry Lee Lucas, one of the perhaps, I mean, by every measure, the most deadly serial killers in the nation's history that we know of.
Oh, yeah. And most likely lovers in what's that, the eighth circle of hell right now?
Yeah,
Maybe the ninth.
yeah.
Maybe they got their dream after all. No.
It's probably not what they expected, though. That's kind of which is kind of the point of hell.
Yeah. Yeah, once you get down to it. Maybe they're getting coconuts up the ass and pineapples up the ass.
Oh, one more thing. Uh, so Kelly asked about the children. So they never had kids themselves,
No.
but the was it niece and nephew?
The niece is dead. I believe the nephew is still living.
Yeah. So that's the last of the questions from the chat.
There we go.
All right.
Yeah. I think we beat the hell out of them.
Yeah, would have liked to have. All right. Good night.
Good night.